It's your boy the Muncher here, and today we're going to show you how to make the perfect resume if you're trying to get an internship, co-op, or you are just a new graduate trying to get a job. So I know the struggle. I applied for over 650 job applications and only got a few interviews and just a few offers, and it was a really big pain in the ass. And after 7 engineering resume revisions later, I think I have perfected the recipe. And I'm going to tell you guys this recipe today just to save you that time that I lost. So let's get started. So when it comes to engineering resumes, there is no right or wrong. There are going to be plenty of different resumes that work just as well. It just really depends on what kind of experience you have, and then you got to shape your resume around that experience. Typically on every engineering resume, your name is going to be the biggest thing, and it could be bolded, like as I have in here, the Muncher. You do not need a complete address inside of your resume. Just have it like a general town and a state and you're completely fine. What you do want, however, is going to be both your email address and your phone number, because in case you do hand over your resume in person, the recruiter needs contact information. And nowadays, people go so far to even put a QR code on their resume to go to their website or LinkedIn or whatever. But realistically, that's just extra and I would not advise doing that. Of course, the next step you want is education. In education, you want the name of the university, the degree that is listed, the dates that you attended, as well as your GPA. As you can see, I do not have a GPA. The reason I don't have a GPA? My GPA is a 2.99 out of 3. Yes, I actually got scammed. But the thing is, if your GPA is a little bit above 3 or a little bit under 3, you don't want to list it on your resume at all. And the reason is, it just looks better not to have it at that point. Like if you see a kid with a GPA of 2.48 and they graduated, you're going to be like, okay, how did this kid even graduate? You know what? I saw this GPA, I don't even want to consider him. But you don't see a GPA at all. It could be a 2.99, it could be a 3.12, it could be anything, but then they look at your experience and they judge you more from that. For my resume, I decided to keep all the dates on the right side as it's just easier to see the time period of where you attended, and I kept everything in chronological order. If I did have a high enough GPA, I would have just put it right under my degree. And you gotta mention what kind of scale your GPA is on. So if it's like a 3.3, is it out of 4? Is it out of 5? What is it out of? Just do the slash what it is out of. So scrolling down, I put my project experience on top of my internship experience. Now the reason I did that is because I personally believe my project experience was far more important than the internship experience that I acquired. For example, I was only working at the internship for 3 months while I was working on the project for almost an entire year. Not only that, but my project experience is much newer than my internship experience. So for your resume, you want to go from the top to the bottom of what your most important experiences are when it comes to your degree field. And if you realize, I put descriptions for every single one of my projects. And when you look at every single one of my bulletin points, you will see a trend, and that is what I did and why I did it. I'm going to give you guys an example, and that is my project polar map. So we did a 2-semester project essentially for the collection of topological data, and that is the what. The why is we did it because Mars is going to be a long-term presence for humanity, and that's going to be furthering the research for Mars, you know. Now this is important because the recruiters got to know that you aren't doing this just cause, and you are doing this for a purpose that actually suits within your degree field. Now the only thing I didn't do to follow this trend is the finite element analysis of a stiffened plate. And the reason I didn't do it for that is because it's self-explanatory, but it shows the experience I have within doing FEAs. For example, let's say I wanted to apply for a job with Lockheed Martin and they had FEA listed in their position description. Maybe the recruiter is looking for FEA in the position description, or maybe it's an artificial intelligence looking to seek out which resumes are bad, which resumes are good, but your resume passed because you had FEA in just your resume itself. And this brings us to using detailed words. You do not want to use simple words in your resume. And trust me, for the regular person, my resume is not easy to read. But those recruiters who didn't even understand what was going on in my resume just kept on rereading it over and over, and they had like gotten tricked in a way into thinking I have more experience than what I actually did. Some of you are all like, oh, the Muncher, I don't even have internship experience or project experience. I call BS on that right now. Without even thinking about it, you may not have internship experience, but you definitely have project experience. For example, every single one of my additional project experiences was done inside of class. Yes, I was not a part of a single club on campus. Frankly, just because I didn't want to waste my time with a bunch of sweaties that just wanted resume experience. But the in-class experience regardless counted. Now further down you see I have 3 main jobs. I worked as a resident advisor, I worked at the Embry-Riddle Fitness Center, and I worked at Taco Bell. Now the reason I mention all 3 of these is because it shows leadership experience. You need to include all leadership experience as much as possible as you can because recruiters absolutely love it. And they love it because you're not afraid to step out of your boundaries. On every engineering resume, it is absolutely necessary to have a skills section. And my skills section just includes modeling, programming, general software, and my languages. And if you do have any other languages that you do speak, you want to include it on your resume because over half of the interviews I did asked about my languages and my background, and it gave me a slight advantage. Sure, I'm probably never going to use it in the field, but the point is they asked me the questions and they were intrigued. My final pieces of advice is you need to have everything grammatically perfect. If you're going to use one period, use it for all sentences. If you haven't realized, I use bolded text for only the most important categories that I want to distinguish. Organizing your resume perfectly without any grammatical errors will take you a long way and will get you that job you wanted. And nobody said finding a job or internship or co-op was easy. Shit, I got an internship and it was even related to the aerospace field. It was related to the locomotive industry, but I took it anyway. And right now, I'm employed with a really good aerospace engineering company and got multiple interviews, and they only asked me about my personal life for the most part. They saw my resume, they were like, oh, you did this, you did this, you did this, and I just confirmed whatever they asked me, you know? I just talked about what I did, and it just went from there to this, and then I got hired, you know? And in my opinion, I wasn't even the smartest person or even near the smartest in my class. Like, I think I was on the dumber scale. The thing that really helped me out was having a very good resume and perfecting that, and as well as perfecting the interview. Like, the GPA didn't matter. The project experience, I only used the stuff I already had in class, you know. I didn't have much else on top of that, while other kids had like 3 or 4 co-ops, 3 or 4 internships. I'm like, dude, how am I going to get a job? But it gave me this significant edge of having this resume perfect and realistically just interviewing well. Now, if you do have a really low GPA, I need you to kill that interview. I'm telling you right now, you can't be both stupid and not know how to interview. It's not going to work. You're never going to get a job. You could be smart and socially awkward and still get a job. You could be dumb and very good at interviews and get the job, but you can't do both and not get a job, bro. If you guys want to see more content related to the aerospace engineering field and just aviation in general, let me know in the comment description below. Maybe I'll make a future tutorial on how to interview, maybe not, who knows. But like this video to see more random shit.